Take it away, Nicole.
Thank you, Ray. And thanks. I'm going to build a little bit on the previous presenters' talks and be a little bit more specific to conservation district employees. So in Washington State, district employees do the majority of planning. We certainly work with NRCS, but districts are in that partnership and do, a lot of the planning for and with NRCS folks. So we're a very big contingency throughout the state, and there's a big variety of different types of planners as well in our state. And so the Center for Technical Development, which I'm going to talk about, and I will focus more on training and mentorship, but we have a pretty large holistic overview of how to engage and incorporate and train and do quality assurance, et cetera, with staff. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, our background in this group, by the way, has been developed slowly but surely over a decade. And when we were able to get funding from our Washington State Conservation Commission a few years ago, we were really able to up the amount of work that we were doing and really improve upon our deliverables to staff. And as anyone would know, that when you have funding, you can actually get things done. So we were really developed for the purpose of ensuring that conservation districts and employees have the proper tools and expertise to consistently plan and implement conservation programs. That's really important. The key words here being tools and expertise. So any individual, if they don't have the mentorship, the support, the training, and the ability to advance their skills, whether they're a district of 1 or a district of 30, being able to have the same access to expertise and resources and the tools to help them get where they need to go is extremely valuable and very, very important. And we really do this not in a vacuum, but with the partners listed here. As I mentioned, the Washington State Conservation Commission in our state is our funder, is a very big supporter, helps us connect to our external partners as well as, of course, working with all the individual districts in our state. Our other organizations, and a big key one there, of course, is NRCS. NRCS is one of our biggest partners for training and for certification, and it is a partnership that we have really grown, and we're exploring some really neat new ways to work together that I'll point out here in a little bit, very specific to enhancing that coordination and that relationship so that we can get even more done for districts, for our partners, and be able to really advance that relationship. So the primary areas of service that the CTD performs are important to list here because they all overlap. You can't just provide one thing without having a full suite of support behind it to really make it engaging and effective and make sure that you have a nice broad outreach to it. So the first thing is certification, which I'm going to go over more here in a couple steps because that's one of the primary ways that we are grasping new employees and getting them into a training and support track to keep them elevated and advancing in their expertise. Training, of course, is the way to do that. We've all mentioned that so far, that you have to have training to get staff where they need to go with the knowledge that they need to do their jobs very effectively and the partnerships to engage that. Planning tools and templates. So for us, having statewide templates for plans is really valuable. I realize inside NRCS, you guys have that for many different types of plans, whether that's CNMPs or prep plans or so on, but districts don't necessarily have that. We can have a different plan format for, let's say, a farm plan or something else in every single district. So really trying to make sure that we have statewide tools and templates so that everybody is using the same thing so that we can share expertise between districts so that, when someone goes from one district to another, that you have consistency there. That's really important. It's really important for a new person to be able just to plug in to available and existing tools and templates so that they don't have to make something up themselves. So that's really important. The mentoring and support, this is something that we're all talking about here. Again, when we're talking about small and large districts, you may or may not have anyone in your district who does what you have been hired to do, but another district may. So really trying to share the expertise across lines, but also to share it with our NRCS partners and other partners. Depending on what type of planning an individual does, it may or may not engage with an NRCS program, but it's really, really valuable. So making sure that we're extending through all of our available partners to share that expertise, but NRCS being our largest partner for planning and training, really trying to enhance that. And for us, it's now engaging in this new process that was discussed about camp, and really ensuring that it's not just when a new NRCS person comes on board, but it's really about making sure that NRCS staff is engaging with districts who are going to carry a lot of the planning load for them in Washington State. So really engaging that program back and forth to make sure that we're all well connected and addressed, and districts being that primary extension to landowners, creating that opportunity for those individuals to get on. Database tracking, I'll talk a little bit more about this as well, but this is a way that we have all of the district staff in our state who are in a database, not only who they are and what they do, but all of their different expertise, so that we can query that at any time to either engage all those individuals, let's say, who are riparian planters or running plant sales or doing dryland wheat expertise. So we're able to capture those individuals and communicate with them, and or find experts to share across boundaries. Communication and outreach is a huge one, right? If we don't stay engaged and communicating, we don't know what's going on. So we've got a newsletter and a website, which I'll highlight here in a little bit, to really keep people aware of what's happening and provide them one easy to find source that they can go for all their information that's readily updated for them. Technical expertise and science support. So this is taking those expertise within our districts and actually engaging them in statewide policy, program, and other discussion and involvement, so that we ensure that districts' expertise and our viewpoint, if you will, is engaged in statewide discussions. Very important, as well as having the science to support what we do. NRCS is a wonderful provider of science-based and supported information through practice standards, et cetera, but sometimes we have to extend outside of that. So making sure that we have the science to support what we're giving as advice. Quality assurance and planning. This is really important in that if we don't have a process to ensure that an individual is demonstrating a level of quality in their planning process or their product, our partners are not going to trust that. That's been a really big issue in our state. I'm sure others will share that exact same issue. So having a process that ensures not only, yes, folks are following this, but if they are not meaning a level of quality assurance, we have an entire process to get them back up there. A lot of that process involves training, and it involves getting them connected with job shadowing or mentorships with others who know what they're doing. So very important there. And lastly is leadership. So maintaining a level of leadership within CTD, within all of our partners, so that we are constantly staying in communication and engagement and improving all these products and processes that we're delivering out to districts and to our partners, and making sure that those connections are there. That's on a state and national level as of today. So myself, both receiving information from the other speakers and ideas, and also being able to share out. So I wanted to spend a little bit more time on talking about our certification process. So we, as everyone probably knows, there's an NRCS planner designation / certification process that individuals, now we have a national place that's vetted. You've got the trainings laid out for the different levels of apprentice, certified, master's, technical, and so on. And so that is there, and we really appreciate that. Some of those trainings in our state, by the way, boot camp, for instance, for conservation district employees, is maybe a tad bit overkill or very hard to get a 3-week chunk of time to go to Nebraska. This last year, Washington State actually test drove and successfully delivered the 1-week Conservation Planning Part 2, Part 3 course, and we did that just for conservation district employees. for us, that's really important, that we want all new employees to go through that process, because if you don't understand the 9 steps of planning, you don't know how to plan. So being really engaged and making sure that we're developing really good programs for that. And we were grateful that NRCS worked with us to take that national developed curriculum and adapt it for Washington State so we could deliver that. Was a big win for us. Building on top of that, the CTD has actually developed planner-specific, discipline-specific certifications in our state. We currently have those for dairy, farm, and riparian planners, and we're working on forestry. So this is using those NRCS planner designations as a base, and then building our foundation, if you will, and then building on top of those to make them specific. And there's some really big opportunities associated with that I'll go into next. And lastly is training to support both of those things. So not only the available trainings with NRCS that are through that planner designation process, but the CTD also creates unique trainings that individuals need, let's say for things like ArcMap or doing better GIS work for planning. We've got some mentorship and facilitation courses that we've put on in the last couple of years to make sure that people know how to be mentors before they are mentors, and giving them the skills to do so. So we do have a variety of different training that we have created for folks. And on our website, we really clearly lay out so people can find these opportunities for the NRCS planner designation process. Again, this gives people a wonderful base of where do you get started if you're a new employee, or if you're retooling in an expertise, or you're starting to engage more in the planning process. And then the CTD certifications, as I mentioned, each of those certifications I talked about has a very extensive overview of what it is, how you need to apply for it, all of the different training, expertise, education, et cetera, that you need, and then how to actually apply for that. And if you want to know more about that, I encourage you to go to our website and explore that a little bit. And then all the training events. So now what we have for our training events is not just the event, but if it qualifies or is required for an NRCS planner designation or a CTD certification, or meets continuing education needs. Again, this is really valuable for new employees to be able to understand what they need to do and where they need to go. So to support this program, and again, this very much mimics, the certification is very similar to onboarding a new staff member, a new employee, if you will, and that if they're in our certification program, we have 3 different levels in there, a level 1, 2, and 3. In other words, beginner. So just get them enrolled, get them started in the process so they connect to a larger framework of support, and then they can advance through that system as they gain more expertise, knowledge, and planning experience. And it starts with a continuing education program. We mirrored ours off of the NRCS requirement, so we could do the 2 birds, 1 stone process. But it also provides then an online communication forum so that they have somewhere to go to get information, to ask questions, to feel connected to a statewide level and forum of expertise. Again, if you're a small or individual district, you may not feel that connection. You may feel like you're figuring all this stuff out on your own. So creating this forum, and right now, by the way, I will say with all of us working remote and having to move to these forums, it's a great test drive time to show that, yes, this can work. And it's accelerating a lot of these tools, which let's, try to find mild silver linings out of what we're all dealing with right now. The mentorship and expertise sharing, very, very important, really valuable, as noted, that this is connecting to an individual to help them understand not only the area that they're now working in, that individual community, but also the expertise that they're doing. Where do they find the tools? What are they supposed to do? Anyone who's tried to do planning knows that can be extraordinarily challenging to negotiate, where to find things, how do you use these things, especially if you're on your own. So having that mentorship and that expertise, someone just ask questions to, is extremely valuable for new employees. Creating a 3-year training plan template, that's really huge for us, that we now have a template online on our website that shows all of the different certifications and expertise that someone needs, and they can then pull from that, create a 1 to 3 year training plan that's approved by their mentors. Again, that's making sure they know they're supported to go through that process. That's really important too, is knowing that you are supported. And through this process, we've been able to partner with NRCS and develop a lot more training opportunities. Every state's a little bit different, but in ours, if NRCS puts on a training, they will, let's say, allocate a handful of seats to partners. Let's say that's 5 or 10 in a class of 20 or 30. But if the demand is 50 people from districts, that's a little bit of a problem to prioritize that. So our state NRCS has been wonderful in working with us to help figure out prioritization into events or into training events, and we're using that certification program as a prioritization tool. We're also helping create more trainings with the CTD, helping to organize those. And amazingly, we're just moments away from actually being able to sign off, if you will, on a cooperative agreement with NRCS to have a training coordinator position that is funded and supported through NRCS and the CTD jointly, so that our state is now going to have an individual that is Conservation District and NRCS equally funded, a singular person, again, I will say, which is amazing for helping coordinate and speed these things along. So that when we get that going here, hopefully by the end or this summertime, we're going to really be able to highlight the value of having an individual like that in a state. And lastly, as I mentioned, the database, being able to put these folks in there, to find these folks, to share around, to track their information. Districts have a lot of challenges with AgLearn and tracking things, so this is a secondary tracking database for them too, to put their trainings and certifications in there so that they've got a secondary way to track and look at that. And as I mentioned, all of this information is found on our website so that staff can go there and they can find everything that they need. You can see here we've got a new employee resources tab as well, so that essentially new employees can go there and it just shows them, like, you know, here's the certifications, here's training, here's how you sign up for the newsletter so that you're connected on a regular basis. Here's how to sign yourself into the database and so on. There's also some great videos that we've got orienting people to the state and to the process and to all of the different partners. Also, that's really valuable to give them that background. And that's how the CTD is working to connect and create that network of support and mentorship and training for new and existing employees. I think that's just as valuable. A lot of folks, even though they've been doing this training or planning for years, if you're now starting a new type of discipline, it feels like starting afresh. So making sure that we have everything in place to support those individuals is really important. So thanks for letting me share today. And if we have some time, I can take a few questions, Ray.
Thanks, Nicole. And we'll probably hold the questions. There are a few coming in, and a reminder just to keep those questions rolling in if you've got questions for Nicole and our next two presenters. But thanks so much, Nicole, and appreciate your presentation today. And we'll get to the questions in just a bit.